starting with last night, just the acknowledgement, the praise, the encouragement you get. What's that like when you hear the applause, when the crowd comes out, and people are on their feet numerous times during the show? How much of that do you appreciate now?
Oh, I appreciate all of it. I mean, it was such a welcome, and after 33 years, imagine if I got it wrong, So it was very important for me that I had that support from the beginning, and that was a great show and a great audience.
Mm-hmm. Is there a real concern of getting it wrong? You know what you're doing at this point. Is it second nature, or did it take a lot of work to get back to the point you're at now?
These days I've got to have an auto cue, and there's all that kind of stuff, And but I've also got a great band, and I feel totally relaxed with them. Great guys, and we didn't have to contend with drums. Sometimes we got drums that kind of gets loud. I'm at the point now where I just love the right acoustics, and if I get that right, I can sing all night.
Mm-hmm. What does it mean at this point to have people saying wonderful things about the new music, and what does praise mean to you, to Yusuf at this point in your career? How much of that is necessary? How much of that isn't needed as you operate as an artist?
It's kind of necessary for people to know that it's a good album. I think it is, and a lot of people agree. And that's basically it. I mean, the rest of it, I believe, is sort of like a gift, that I'm given, and a lot of people have been saying that over the years. Well, if you've got a gift, you should use it. And but then they don't quite understand that the gift comes, at its own time, and I needed to wait. And it was, I believe, the right time, and in the way the world has gone through a great deal of change, and people are getting to know each other. It's slow, and perhaps I've got a job to do to try and make that easy, because music can unite people, and that's the power of it.
What kind of change did you have to go through to get to this point? Did you feel that calling to help unite people? Did it take a while for that calling to come?
I've always had a station in life in some respects that was between two things. My father was from Cyprus, my mother from Sweden. I had to keep on making peace between them, because there was arguments. And when it came to it, even in my upbringing as a Christian, I was supposed to be Greek Orthodox, but I went to a Roman Catholic church, and it was all this, and so I wasn't quite anywhere, but I was in the middle. And I think that I've been created for that position, and that's very comfortable for me, and I find it natural. If you look back, actually, interestingly, at my history from my mother's side, we have a great personality called the White General, who was a peace activist in Sweden. He was a general, and one day he refused, to go out and fight. They called him the White General. He was the first conscientious objector, and he made it possible for others to object. So, I mean, that's part of my DNA as well. So, it's kind of useful.
Mm-hmm. And people look to you for that. What is that like as an artist? People looking to your lyrics, looking to the songs, the old songs, and now, wonderfully, the new songs as well, for someone who could lead them to something, or make them at least experience what peace can be about. What's that like for you as an artist, to have people looking to you for that? Is that a responsibility there?
Well, it was such a responsibility that at one point I felt I was going nowhere, and I wasn't leading anybody anywhere. So I needed to find out, and I needed to get out in a way to do that. So that was, if you like, an expression of my sincerity to what I was writing about. And if I'm going to live my songs, I have to do some living, I have to get out there and do it. And perhaps it was getting on the path again, which was one of the things which separated me from my audience. But at the same time, it was immensely important, because it made it real. And I don't know how many songs I've sang that aren't sort of real or connected to my experience. Yeah, I've written a few songs like that, but, I mean, really, most of them are like what I believe and what I've been through.
Mm-hmm. So the significance of Roadsinger, then, is a big one, in terms of everything you just said. These songs are all real, and they all speak of where you are now.
Yeah, but at the same time, I work best in metaphor, and, yeah, it's a real thing, but at the same time, people love stories, and that's the way we learn, I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm into education as well, and, you just tell people the facts, and they're going to go, well, it's boring, So you need to make a story out of it. And I'm working on a very interesting story right now, which is my musical, it's called Moon Shadow. And I'm enjoying this so much, and I'm hoping that next year, this thing will be out there and people will be able to see that.
Mm-hmm. And for people that haven't heard about this yet, you've been gone for a while, you have a great new album, and there's also the Broadway Yusuf that's happening all at the same time. This is a lot going on for you.
It is. It
Right.
kind of happens at this part of my life, but amazingly enough, I feel healthy enough, and thank God, I'm still around to be able to see some of this, happening in my time. It's great.
Mm-hmm. And beyond happening to be embraced by so many communities right now, and everything you've gone through just the last couple of years, to come here and to be embraced by the pop music community and Broadway and just the world at large. That's something you were unsure of, or did that?
Yeah, I never knew, how much. In fact, I might have influenced a few people, musically. I sort of wrote songs from my quirky point of view, because that's the way I saw life. But, in the end, I was always trying to do things slightly differently from the way things were normally done. And to think that I've had a sort of impact on the young musical, generation, it's great. It's fantastic when I see that this guy says, Cat Stevens is one of his favourite artists that influenced him. That's a big plus for me. I mean, it's fantastic. I never expected that.
Mm-hmm. But have you been hearing those things all through the years? Have you been letting that stuff kind of bubble under and you have not been paying attention?
I've not been paying attention, really. It's only like recently that I'm beginning to read, Google, everything. And so, I'm learning a lot.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware, though, of the significance of what this is now in terms of you coming back to the pop world, as it were, and the significance people are putting on this album, and you being here in Los Angeles and talking about music? That's something you're kind of conscious of, and just in terms of the pop significance of it, if nothing else, just what that means in terms of your kind of legacy and the whole Cat Stevens is back thing, even though you're not that man and it's a different time?
Well, I kind of, I think I do know what it means, because I remember seeing some of the kind of like the great 100 greatest albums. I'm going, where's Tea for the Tillerman? I'm thinking, hang on, that album belongs in there. And so in some respects, I do realize that it's important to be out there for people to know that, this thing exists and this body of work actually is important, and as a historical document of someone's life and someone who's been through a lot of things, a lot of changes. I've passed through a whole lot of thresholds and barriers which people wanted me to stay within. It's crucial that we have a look beyond, and I have to be a person who personifies that sort of story.
Once people hear the music, as a lot of people already have, and people will be hearing over the coming days, I think the questions will go away. But for people that are cautious, that have just heard the stories, that don't know what you've been up to for decades now, what do you tell those people about what Yusuf is up to, what the music means at this point?
Well, I certainly didn't disappear from this world. In fact, I got heavily into it from the point of view of seeing that the two big things, as far as I was concerned, was like education and humanitarian causes. Now, if you look at the world, those are the two big problems. And if you're working in those areas, you get to know what's going on. And if you're in the elite of the pop world, you may not ever really touch Earth, And so it's important that I've been there and I know what that's about. And to be honest, getting involved in education was one of the greatest things for me. It enlightened me so much as to the potential, how we can make this world better through education. And so with that in mind, coming back now and singing, I have a whole lot of, if you like, resource information, which is gradually being made known through my songs. But it's very subtle, and it's, but it's, I think people are benefiting.
Speaking of education, so many of your songs speak of and speak to the young, literally children. I don't know how many times are mentioned in your lyrics. Talk about just that specifically and why that's still so important to you to kind of speak to youth that way.
Well, the youth, I don't think I ever really grew up, so in some sense I'm still a kid, and I know what I want, and I want a place to play, and I want some answers. I want people to tell me what this is all about. Why and what happens afterwards, when people disappear into the grave, what really happened. Those big questions, you've got to give kids some answers. And that to me, it's not preachy at all. It's just a matter of fact. They've got to know. And we've all got to know. And so in a way, I bring kids into the picture as many times as I can. talk about the earth, like, oh, very young, what will you leave us this time? Because if you grab everything for yourself, what are you going to leave for the next generation? So it's big questions.
People, like, from the show last night, I listened to your music for years, but in the show last night, there's an odd sense of wanting to go out and do something good when you're done listening to the songs. Are you conscious of that, the immediacy, still, when you come to a show? Because you haven't done that many shows in recent years. When you sing the songs, what people are leaving with after hearing you?
Well, I only got that yesterday from after this, after the show. Somebody came up and said, "You just made me want to go home and write something now." I went, "Wow, that's great. That's great."
And with the children, the whole, nothing else, imparting this curiosity to others to search for their own.
Yeah,
truth.
I think that the inspiration, if you like, to see that there is a continuous, source of hope and light somewhere out there, but there, is very important, that we link up with that and that we all kind of help share that light. Whatever we have, whatever I can give, I've got to give it. I've got to give it. I can't keep it for myself. So that is to do with sharing. And when somebody else gets that, they can do the same. And that's how light spreads.
Talk about Boots in the Sand, the song, and then in the video. And some people may be surprised when you're having a little fun with what took place. A couple of years have transpired since then. But just where that song came from in you, and you're having a little laugh with it.
Yeah. Probably one of the greatest misunderstandings about me is I don't have a sense of humor, and that's wrong, because I really can laugh, and I like to laugh at myself, and this was a situation which was comical. If you saw me, like, from above, and this, like, little guy being led around into this little doorway, and somebody saying, "Keep on telling me, how do you spell your name?" And I suddenly took it as a kind of lampoon, in a way, of the way things are, the way people have to behave sometimes. Officials, they've got to do their job, but at the same time, it's kind of ridiculous, because common sense tells you, this guy, don't worry. But anyway, we turned it into a great song, and then Paul McCartney joined us on this, and that's great support as well. Dolly Parton sang her Bird of Nashville bit, and we had the Royal Opera Garden singers on there, and Terry Sylvester from Holland. It was great, collection of stars who joined with me in that great endeavor.
Who else, you mentioned a few names, who else, now that you're back, as it were, in some ways, who else have you always wanted to share a stage with, share a recording studio with, that maybe you'd love to sing with, write with? Is there a list out there? Are there a few people that you'd love to spend time with?
Yeah, I reckon, one of the things recently I did was to work, it's such a shame that George Harrison is not here anymore, but he was really a spirit and a fantastic inspirer. And if you think about the great spiritual adventure that a lot of us got off on in those days, it was because of him, And I recently did a couple of tracks with Klaus Voormann, who was like the fifth Beatle, if you like, German Beatle. And when he asked me what songs I wanted to do, he played on John Lennon's, Man for the Man, all that. I said, no, George. And I picked a couple of songs from him, and he's not here. But, Dylan's here, so maybe I'll join him one day.
I'm sure the demand has been intense, and now that people see you active again, it'll be even more so. Last night you talked about breaks, and there's certain breaks in your life. Do you see another break coming, or are you going to be active for a while? People want to know how busy you're going to be, and is there more music coming right away?
My feeling is that, I don't know how long I can do touring and all that kind of stuff, because it's very heavy, it weighs you down, and time consuming. I like it, I love it, but I can only do so much. But that's why I'm working on my musical called Moon Shadow, and that will enable people to actually hear my music live, kind of every night if they want. And the fact is that the songs come back to life again when you put them in the story context. And I just think that's going to be the long-term thing people are going to enjoy.
Very good. Two more quick things. Can you just get your quick take on this whole Coldplay thing, because people have been hearing about that, and just where that's at and where that came from?
Well, Coldplay, I wasn't blaming Coldplay. I possibly should be blaming Joe Satriani, because he's the one who preceded that. But no, these things, when you get those chords, the melody becomes kind of obvious. But the moment you get into those chords, that's what happens. And people do it innocently, you know. I'm not going to chase anybody for that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And lastly, it's a question from a fan, if you can answer it maybe into the camera, if you're comfortable with that, just how nice is it now with our new president? How has that changed your ability to come here and be a musician?
Well, yeah, I think it's a new day. It's kind of what we sang about before, like morning is broken. There's a whole lot I think can still happen. It's a can-do thing, but people have got to work, and therefore I think now's the time. And may God bless everybody who's working.
Very good. May God bless.